Continuing our story, we have Vilgax in space, going through one of the darkest parts of it as well. There are very few stars, but multiple meteors, so meaning Vilgax actually has to put his ship in an illuminating state in order to reach his destination. He looks around as the area or the coordinates the scare skate, gave him stop here. He has no idea his planet has been taken over by the infernal ghost, but unfortunately, he has other priorities at the moment. Such a good ruler. And Vilgax looks around. Where is it? It should be here. This is my one and only chance. I swear, if that ghost lied to me, I will render him from existence. Where is it? This creature should be here. A creature of unimaginable power. The power I need to possibly not only get my revenge on the humiliation that Kaiser gave me, but my revenge on Ben Tennyson. Yeah, I know, still obsessing over a kid that beat you so many years ago. Might have to put him on Diddy Watch, I'm just saying. But this is where Siphon sees something. These white crystals. And he says, Master, over here. Right here. Master, master, look. He's over there. And this is where Vilgax simply turns and says, Ah, yes. Hurry up, bring the ship closer. And so Siphon pilots the ship to get closer to the figure. And this is where Vilgax is like, yes, finally, you will be mine to command. And so this is where we see Space Godzilla in his crystal, I guess you could say, chamber, if you will, surrounded by multiple black holes, all making sure he stays in place as he hibernates, or at least for now. But this is where we go back to Earth. And, well, the group's having a fun time. Keep in mind, I said in the last part that thanks to Kaiser dealing with a large majority of Ben's superheroing stuff, he's actually been able to spend time with Julie a lot more, and their relationship is better. Plus, with Charmcaster now being with him, this means that she and Gwen have actually figured out how to get along. So they're on speaking terms. Baby steps, they not trying to kill each other or nothing. But, everything's going out just well, and they can be considered, friends in a way. I mean, everything's all nice and fine. But then again, they kind of can get trigger happy with each other, due to their history. So Julie being there, Julie is the icebreaker, asking her, so Charmcaster or Hope, right? How's your relationship with Kaiser going? And this actually gets Gwen interested as well. And Charmcaster gets a very devious smile on her face. She's like, oh, it's very, very wonderful. He's very good at a lot of things. And I do mean a lot of things. To which Julie raises an eyebrow and smiles and says, oh, so he's that good. Have you guys, ever tried it in his his other form? However, this conversation gets interrupted by an explosion. And luckily for everybody else, it's actually a plumber train. Oh, well, I guess that's not lucky for everybody else, but, lucky for this conversation and you viewers. Yeah, this train is actually being chased down by a Forever Knight's vehicle. And this is where Ben simply says, hey, Kaiser, Raisha there, and just dips off as accelerate. Kaiser, rolling his eyes, gets up from the sand tomb he pretty much put around himself and simply flies after Ben, calling him a cheater. And so, they have a pretty good they have a pretty good friendship at this point. Honestly, you could definitely say they're like best friends, kind of like how Kevin and Ben are, but actually a bit more brotherly, if you will. Probably just as brotherly as them, but then, Kaiser, is kind of more mature than Ben, but it is what it is. So Kaiser pretty much stops the truck with an optic blast, and this is where Forever Knights actually step out, and Kaiser gets the most devious smile on his face, or I should say a blood-curdling smile on his face. And this is where the Forever Knights actually show their more advanced tech, like the ones they were using in the I guess you could say the more towards the end of Alien Force because of their whole xeno racism and stuff like that. So Ben decides to be petty and goes from Accelerate into his Godzilla alien form, his Dino King form, right? And this is where he's like, well, you guys know you messed up, right? Mm-hmm. yeah, let's just get this over with. And just straight up hits them with an atomic breath. Keep in mind, he doesn't kill him because, Ben's not going to kill unless he really has to. I mean, I don't think anyone wants to push him towards that kind of mood here. But this is where the Forever Knights actually do show that they can, well, I wouldn't say withstand it, but they can use their tech to kind of like deflect most of the energy. And Kaiser sees this and is like, guess you failed. My turn, and actually goes in for a thunder punch, but it simply gets blocked on the energy shield, albeit it does send the Forever Knight flying into the others. And he's like, you got to be kidding me. I hit you with a full force punch, and it just dispersed my energy? Should have expected nothing less from these done dragon torturers. And so this is where Ben's like, so is that going to be a problem for you? To which Kaiser laughs, cracks his knuckles, and says, nope. You don't really realize how good it feels to actually just use your physical strength to just ragdoll somebody. And so Kaiser proceeds to use only his physical might to actually just ragdoll these forever guards. However, when the numbers actually start getting, I guess you could say, a little bit more than they actually asked for, Ben goes into big chill and is like, okay, you know what? We're just gonna end this here. And so Kaiser moves out of the way and has Big Chill, Ben just freezes all of them, leaving them right there. And then Kaiser blasts all of them with an optic blast, because now they can't even use their shields or any of their weapons. And this knocks every Forever Knight out except for Driscoll. Driscoll gets up and spews his xenophobic, hating nonsense. And can we really talk about how the Forever Knights were really just racist in general, like to the point where they were even going to kill, like, alien children? Like, come on now. And this is where he calls them demon alien scum. You shall not putrefy or infect this planet with your presence. And so he takes out his sword and leaps at both of them. Ben and Kaiser kind of look at each other like, you want it? Nah, you can have it. To which Kaiser's like, thanks, and actually throws an electro web around Driscoll and just has him electrocuted with it. And he's like, I kind of forget they're a little racist, I mean, I didn't even come to this planet to conquer it or destroy it. I just use that as a threat. And again, you guys obviously believe me because I did have that kind of habit back then. But I came here looking for the ones who tortured my people. I've eradicated a few of your Forever Knight headquarters and stuff, and obviously may have crushed a few of your skulls unintentionally. And to which Ben is just simply in his human form looking at him like, dude, just interrogate the guy already. All right. My bad. To which Driscoll's like, I will never speak. I will never answer you xenophobic monsters. And to which Kaiser's just like, dude, you do not have to be like this. What alien has came to harm your planet that is actually living on here peacefully? To which he says, it doesn't matter if they're living here peacefully. This is an earthbound planet. Earthlings only. To which Kaiser's like, wouldn't that make any alien that is born here an earthling? Considering how you humans, state that someone being born in this country means they are a part of that country. To which Ben's like, this man's spitting. However, this is where a portal opens and Gwen, Charmcaster, and Julie make it, while Kevin, drives up and actually begins searching the train. And to which they ask, so how's the, oh, you guys actually took care of all of it. Well, okay, I guess that kind of takes care of everything. To which Kevin's like, yep, so, what did they even want this train for? And to which Ben is like, well, don't know. He's not talking about anything or really even giving us an answer. And Kaiser's been electrocuting him for like a good, how long has it been? And then to which Kaiser's like, I think like 5 or 6 minutes. Yeah, 5 or 6 minutes. To which Kevin kind of laughs and is like, well, if they're not going to talk, you guys do have 2 magical beings standing right there just waiting for help. And so Kevin searches the train, looking around for anything the Forever Knights could possibly have used. And this is where Kaiser simply releases Driscoll from his electrical bond and kind of just uses his tail to hold him there. And he asks Kevin, so what did you find? And to which this is where Kevin looks in horror. He's like, oh my God, no way. And to which Gwen is like, babe, you seem kind of stunned. What did you find? Oh. Into which Gwen moves aside and they see it. The Ascalon blade, one of the most legendary and powerful weapons in the Ben 10 universe. And this is where Kaiser tightens his grip around Driscoll's body, as again, a large majority of people in the cosmos do know about the Ascalon blade and what it's capable of. And this is where he looks at him, you weren't going to use that on me, now were you? To which Driscoll's like, well, no, I wasn't going to use it against you per se, but... And Kaiser tightened his tail around him. And this is where Kevin's like, okay, dude, you need to spill it now, otherwise your eyeball's going to pop out your head. And this is where Charmcaster says, honey, put him down and let me handle it. So Kaiser simply is like, yeah, dude, you probably should have talked. And this is where he kind of just drops Driscoll at Charmcaster's feet. And is like, all right, darling, go on. Have your fun with him. To which he says, oh, I intend to. And this is where Charmcaster begins channeling a spell. When Driscoll tries to move, Kaiser makes sure his foot is planted firmly on Driscoll's leg, and just to kind of insult to injury, he breaks it just on the impact. And so Charmcaster, done channeling her spell, blasts it at Driscoll. And she simply explains it. This is a truth-binding spell. And if you try not to tell the truth, it gets more and more painful with each and every lie you tell. And to which Kaija says, oh, that's so hot. To which Julia's like, could we not right now? To which he's like, oh, sorry. So what were you guys using that for? To which this is where Driscoll tells everything. They created a monster that they hoped could defeat both Ben and Kaiser. And they were going to use the Ascalon blade combined with the power armor he originally had in order to defeat it. To which Charmcaster says, see, was that so hard? However, this is where Julia's like, wait. You guys created a monster out of alien DNA. To which Driscoll is like, yes. To which this is where Julie's like, do y'all understand how hypocritical that is? Or how dangerous that is? To which Kaiser thinks to himself, what the heck could they have created out of his and Ben's Dino King blood? However, this is where a portal opens and Kaiser recognizes that this is one of his people's portals. However, this is where two of his scouts, or scouts of the Royal Army, pretty much come out. Ravenoid and Hino. Keep in mind, yes, I do understand that they are Vestroians, but keep in mind, Stratus, that Vestroians are basically a draconian-like species, which is different versions of themselves. So basically, kind of like Bakugan, but different. And so this is where they both kneel to their king, and simply, he addresses them. What brings you guys so far that you disturbed my time here on Earth? To which Hino is like, sir, we are very sorry, but we have come to inform you our senses have gone off. To which Kevin's like, wait, you guys have like sensors and like the far reaches of space? Is that even possible? How do you guys even get connected to that far? To which Ravenoid simply explains that their planet's technology is a combination of, well, their entire galaxies. So when something does go off, obviously everyone would know about it. And this is where Kaiser simply states, get to the point. Who or what has disturbed this sensory? And this is where Hinoid simply states, Space Godzilla. It was Space Godzilla, dear sir. And this is where Gwen notes Kaiser's reaction is one of silence, intensity, and she could almost feel a hint of fear. To which she's like, you okay? And they both simply bow to him again, begging for his forgiveness. Because again, he still does have, his reputation of being a ruthless, well, not a ruthless ruler, but a ruthless person when he's very angry. However, Kaiser simply states, it's not your fault. However, I will have to deal with this situation personally. So his Charmcaster's like, ooh, so you have a rival in the cosmos? To which this actually gets Kaiser to lighten up and laugh. And he says, very simply, yes and no. You see, Space Godzilla was the original dragon, a cosmic entity, if you will. So dangerous, in fact, that celestial sapiens feared his potential, so they managed to all jump and subdue him but they sealed him with his own power. And if he is broken free, he can only imagine who's done it. To which Charmcaster simply states, all right, then let's go. I'm not gonna let you handle some threat alone. Plus, I want to see your homeworld. Besides, as a queen myself, it would be very fun if my future husband would take me. To which Kaiser simply smiles, grabs Charmcaster by the waist, and the four of them simply leave, with Ben, Kevin, and Gwen vowing that they'll investigate the situation. So, with that being said, Kaiser does take Charmcaster to his home planet and introduces her to, well, the entire planet of Vestroia, right? So, believe it or not, everything kind of goes smoothly on there. However, Gwen simply states, so while they're investigating that, we're going to have to find out exactly what did the Forever Knights create from your DNA. And so this is where Gwen actually remembers Charmcaster's true spell and begins to rework the exact same spell. And, well, Driscoll ain't going anywhere. Bro's leg is broken. Better start yapping, bro. I'm gonna need you to put on some colorful dreads and call yourself 69 or 60 Knight because you about to start snitching. And this is where Ben kind of looks at her like, dang, I actually do wonder what kind of creature they could have made from my DNA, from, well, Dino Kings and, well, even Ghidorah's DNA, if you will. And so this is where we end off by going to the Mariana Trench, and we see nothing but corpses. Whale, human, and even various types of alien-based creatures and monsters. And this is where we hear a deep rumbling growl, with Destroyer in his final form laughing and saying, finally, I have been reborn. And this is where we're going to leave it off here, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe and share it with your friends, and let me know what you guys think about this chapter.